Good evening to you all. Our respected Vice Chancellor, Dean Faculty of Science, our guest speaker, Professor H.M. Bandara, Deans of the faculties, heads of the departments, lecturers, academic and non-academic staff, students, and well-wishers. I have great pleasure in welcoming you all to the occasion of Memorial Lecture of Shivada Sundaram Maheswaran. First, we will write a traditional oration and kindly invite our Vice Chancellor, Professor Sri Satyanaraja, and our Dean Faculty of Science, Professor P. Raviraj sir, and our distinguished guest speaker, Professor H.M. Bandara, to write a traditional oration and to begin this occasion. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I kindly request our Vice Chancellor sir and the Dean Faculty of Science and our guest speaker to come to the stage in order to start our memorial oration. Again, I am welcoming to you all to this memorial oration. Our University of Jaffna was inaugurated as a campus of the University of Sri Lanka on October 6th of 1974 and celebrating its Golden Jubilee celebration during this year. And as a part of this Golden Jubilee celebration, we are celebrating this memorial oration of Professor Shivada Sundaram Maheswaran, who was the Dean of the Faculty of Science and the eminent professor of University. Next, I kindly request our Vice Chancellor to deliver the introductory speech and welcome speech.
Beloved members of late, family members of late Professor Maheswaran, the personal presence of our sister here, we pay our respect to you, madam. And then the colleagues of Professor Maheswaran, Professor Balasundaram, Professor Mohandas, and Professor Kandasamy, and other professors such as Stephen. The beloved students of late Professor Maheswaran, and the present Dean, and also our most respected, distinguished speaker of the oration today, Professor H.M. Bandara sir, other well-wishers, and our dear students. Good evening to you all. The day 2nd of February 1998, the saddest day in the annals of the university and the faculty. On the day we were separated from this gentleman who paved the way for the faculty to grow and sacrifice entire life for the upliftment of the Department of Chemistry, passed away. So since that time, we have been commemorating. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome all the participants of this 26th year commemoration of late Professor Shivada Sundaram Maheswaran, who was the Dean of the Faculty of Science for 2 consecutive terms. Our University at Jaffna was inaugurated in 1974, and the Golden Jubilee celebrations are celebrated throughout the 2024 year with all spheres of events. In this respect, Professor Shivada Sundaram Maheswaran Memorial Lecture become highly significant. Professor Maheswaran was Born in Cockville on the 28th of March 1942 and had his school education at the Jaffna Hospital Hindu College. He entered the University of Ceylon in 1962 and awarded the Bachelor of Science Honours degree in Chemistry in 1966. He joined the University of Peradeniya as an assistant lecturer in 1966 and served there up to 1975. During this period, he completed his MSc and PhD degrees at the University of Sheffield, United Kingdom in 1969 and 1972 respectively. Professor Maheswaran joined the Faculty of Science of the newly established University of Jaffna as one of the pioneers on the 19th May 1975 and served at the Faculty of Science until his untimely demise on the 2nd February 1998. He was a founding head of the Department of Chemistry and was promoted to Professor of Chemistry in 1979 and Senior Professor of Chemistry subsequently in recognition of his contribution to the academic, administrative and research activities in this university. Further, he served as the Dean of the Faculty of Science for 2 consecutive terms and guided the faculty during the period 1991 to 1996. He was also functioned as an elected member of the governing council of the university and the management committee of the Vavuniya campus of the University of Jaffna. Professor Maheswaran played a pivotal role in shaping the institution into a strong academic entity. As a founding head of the Department of Chemistry, he worked tirelessly to produce graduates of outstanding quality. He faced a lot of constraints during the most difficult period in the region witnessed as well as in the university and overcome all the challenges through his diligent effort and dedication. He was devoted his life for the development of the faculty in the University of Jaffna and served as a chairperson, active member of several selection boards, standing committee, ad hoc committees and authorities of the University of Jaffna. Following his untimely demise on the 2nd February 1998, the University of Jaffna honored him with the honorary degree of Doctor of Science posthumously at the 16th convocation held in the 4th of October 1998. Further, to honor his valuable contribution, the University of named the chemistry building as the Maheswaran Chemistry Building as the Maheswaran Block, following the demise in 1998. Professor Maheswaran Commemorative Committee of the Faculty of Science instituted the above memorial lecture. This memorial lecture from 30th of March 1999 and consequently conducted every year by the University of Jaffna to commemorate the service of late Maheswaran. This year, we are delighted to have Professor H.M.N. Bandara, retired Senior Professor in Chemistry in the Department of Chemistry, University of Peradeniya, to deliver this memorial oration of late Professor Maheswaran under the title of Energy Storage Devices and the Challenging Role of Chemists. So I welcome you and also thank you for accepting the invitation of the Commemoration Committee. Professor H.M. Bandara graduated from the University of Ceylon with a Bachelor of Science Honours in Chemistry degree in 1971 and was awarded B. Satef Khan Gold Medal for Best Performance in the final examination. Soon after the graduation, he joined the Peradeniya campus of then University of Ceylon as an assistant lecturer in chemistry and left for postgraduate studies in 1973. Professor H.M.N. Bandara obtained his PhD in inorganic chemistry from the University of Aston, Birmingham, United Kingdom in 1977. Of his return from UK, he continued to serve at the Department of Chemistry, University of Peradeniya, and was promoted to senior lecturer in 1982. Professor in Inorganic Chemistry in 1990 and Senior Professor in Inorganic Chemistry in 1999 in recognition of his contribution to the academic, administrative and research activities at the University of Peradeniya. Further, he served as the head of the Department of Statistics and Computer Science from 2016 to 7, and subsequently as a head of the Department of Chemistry from 2008 to 2011. He retired from the university service in 2013. Since 2000, Professor H.M.N. Bandara contributed to national examinations such as GCA level chemistry examination and served as a controlling examiner from 2006 to 2010. He was a distinguished visiting professor at the Research Institute of Electronics, Shushu University, Japan, from 2010 to 11. Professor H.M.N. Bandara is a research scholar. His research focused person. He is a research focused person with over 100 scholarly publications in international refereed journals. Due to his research interests, Professor H.M.N. Bandara has been continuing activities in the area of energy storage devices at the Department of Chemistry, University of Pennsylvania. Even after retirement, he is a daily visitor to his Department of the Chemistry and Pennsylvania since 2012. So his continuing interest in the institutional as well as national development is immense. So we have a pleasure, very fitting person, student of Professor Maheswaran, is to be known to him for a long time as a colleague and coming from the same institution, Peradenia, mentored both of them to this memorable occasion to deliver the memorable memorial speech on the very relevant topic, energy storage devices. And also, I heard while I was conversing with him, he is more interested in interfacing electronic things. So, and also he worked in the electronic department. So he's famous for that devices. So we listen to him. And thank you very much, sir, for coming. And over to you, sir.
Vice Chancellor of the University of Jaffna, the Dean of the Faculty of Science, and the Head of the Department of Chemistry, and all other academic staff members of the university, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, I feel honored and privileged to come here and deliver this lecture today in front of this distinguished gathering in commemoration of the late Professor Maheswaran, who has been serving this university for several years, and he served at the University of Peradeniya also for a short period before coming to Jaffna. And now I recollect that Professor Maheswaran was on the staff of the Department of Chemistry, University of Peradeniya during the early 70s. And early 70s. However, this stay at Peradeniya was quite short, and in 1970, I can remember, I was in the third year of the chemistry special degree course at Peradeniya. That was 1970, and now we have a seminar presentation in the third year, and Professor Maheswaran was my seminar supervisor at that time, and I can remember that my presentation topic was perfluoroligands in coordination chemistry. And unfortunately, I had to leave Peradeniya for my postgraduate studies in 1973, and Professor Maheswaran left Peradeniya and came here to to Jaffna for his career, and our association ended actually. However, I must remember at this point Professor Mrs. Maheswaran, with whom I had a long association as we were serving together on the setting panel in chemistry for the GC advanced level examination. That was from 2000 to 2010. So during that period, we were doing the setting panel work, and we had a close association for 10 years. So I take this opportunity to remember her also at the same time when we are commemorating his husband. Now, the topic today is energy storage devices and the challenging role of the chemists. Now, I will begin my talk with a short introduction to the energy requirements of the world today, and we can then understand how important is this energy for the survival of the mankind. And energy now in many of its forms has become an essential utility for human existence. The enormity of this energy requirement is amply evident from the following data. Now, if you look at this data, the global energy production per year is about 170,000 terawatt hours. 1 terawatt is 10 to the power 12 watt hours. So, it's a huge amount of energy, global energy production per year, 170,000 terawatt hours per year. I don't know whether you can see the board for the people. So, now the number of petroleum oil barrels that we burn per day is over 100 million. So, imagine the amount of heat that is generated and the amount of the barrels that we are burning per day. Global electricity production per year is about 30,000 terawatt hours. That is just electricity alone. And it is estimated by the International Energy Authority that in 2025, 35% of the electricity produced will be using renewable sources. And we are moving towards using more and more renewable energy, and that's a good trend. And in 2023, the breakdown of the renewable energy production according to the source is as follows. Hydropower about 48%, wind power 25%, solar 17%, and other sources it's about 10%. And the global daily production of electricity is over 82 terawatt hours. That is per day the energy production as electricity. Now we know that conventionally electric power has to be used as it is produced, and demand for electricity changes with the time of the day, and it is seasonal. Sometimes, if it is wind power, it changes all the time, and if you have solar power, it's not available in the night, and so on. And there should be a mechanism in place to match the electrical generation and the consumption. So, what is called grid balancing is essential, and for the utilization of energy effectively. Now, a mechanism to store electricity produced during times of low demand and to make it available at times of high demand is therefore required. Now, there are various methods that have been developed. Things like pumped hydro, then flywheel methods, thermal storage, gas compression. These are some of the methods that have been developed. And apart from these, the battery storage is one of the most important aspects when it comes to energy storage using batteries. Now, we are using electrochemical cells to store electrical energy, and this has been used ever since the development of batteries over 2 centuries ago. And batteries that emerged as small scale power storage units have now reached a stage where they are employed to grid scale energy manipulation. So batteries have developed up to that level where they can be used for grid energy manipulation. The role that has been played by the scientists and the chemists in particular during the transformation is remarkable, and their dedication and the hard work have immensely benefited the people, paving way for a comfortable life. And the global battery market is US dollars 104 billion today. So it's a huge market for batteries, and it is expected to grow with a compound annual growth rate of about 15.8% from 2024 to 2031, reaching a market value of about US dollars 201 billion when it comes to 2031. So that's a huge market for batteries. And now we will come to the story of this battery development. And we all know that in 1800, the first battery consisting of electrochemical cells, which we call voltaic pile, which could supply continuous stream of electrical current, was invented by Italian chemist Alessandro Volta, that we all know. And that was the first battery that was invented, and it consisted of alternating discs of zinc and copper with proto paper separator soaked in a salt solution kept in between these metal plates. So that was the first battery that was invented, and then after this invention, there were many other significant inventions that followed, and I have mentioned here a few of those which are most important. And to refresh your memories, they are listed here. We have (1859), the lead acid battery, the first rechargeable battery that was invented in 1859. Then Leclanche cell in 1868, the zinc ammonium chloride cell, and then in 1899, Jagner, nickel cadmium battery, and 1900, the famous Thomas Edison nickel iron battery, and then 1969, the seal lead acid battery, and also what's called the AGM, that is adsorbed glass mat version of the battery. And then finally 1971, we have the lithium primary battery, which contained the lithium and manganese dioxide. Then the latest was 1989, the nickel metal hydride battery. These are some of the most successful batteries that were invented from the first battery up to now. Now, briefly going through these batteries to refresh your memory. The lead acid battery, which was invented in 1859, is a highly successful battery that is widely used as the starter battery in almost all vehicles today. Now, due to the presence of dilute sulfuric acid, as electrolyte. Now it has a very low internal resistance and it is ideal for obtaining large currents for short periods. And however, the deep discharge, that is about 30%, shortens the lifetime of this lead acid battery, and that's a disadvantage. But nevertheless, it's a very successful battery that's being used even today. Now, an advanced version of this, where it is spirally wound, thin film version of the lead acid batteries are now available, and they have a high power output, and that's an improved version of the lead acid battery. And to remind you, I have given here the basic electrode reactions of the lead acid battery. And starting with lead and lead dioxide electrodes, during discharge, the lead is converted to lead sulfate, and during charging, lead and lead dioxides are regenerated. And now there are 3 or 4 very important features of this battery. One is the catholyte and the anolyte are the same, that is dilute sulfuric acid. So there is no difference, and that's a big advantage in designing the battery. And the advantage is that a separator is needed only to separate the cathode, the 2 electrodes to prevent their physical contact. And it can allow any ion to pass through, and you don't have to use any ion exchange membranes or ion selective membranes, and that's a big advantage. And then another very important factor is the electrode materials, that in this case lead dioxide and lead sulfate, they should be soluble in the electrolyte. If they are soluble, then the battery will not work. So it's a very essential requirement that the active electrode material should not be soluble in the electrolyte. Now, another feature that shows the cleverness of the inventor is the voltage. It's 2 volts. It's fairly high for an aqueous electrolyte, and because water electrolysis starts at about 1.2 volts. So, usually when there's a battery with a liquid electrolyte, which is water, you can't get a voltage about 1.2. But here, we know that lead acid battery has a voltage of 2 volts, and that's, because it has been cleverly designed, and there's over voltage and there is no gas evolution until you reach a voltage of about 2 volts. And now, the invention of this battery, the electrochemical cell by Alessandro Volta, triggered a cascade of other inventions and discoveries during the 19th century that led to the development of our understanding regarding the properties of matter. And it's not just electricity and providing this electric power, but it immensely added to our knowledge. And as we know now, the experiments on electromagnetism by Joseph Henry in 1830 and Michael Faraday 1831, and invention of electric motor by Jacobi in 1834, and the investigation of the process of electrolysis by Michael Faraday 1831 and others. There are few such developments that followed the invention of the battery. Now, coming to electric vehicles, the concept of electric vehicles is not a new one. It is as old as the invention of the batteries and the electric motor. Now, Edison in 1900, he was developing his nickel iron battery with the KOH electrolyte with the hope of using them in electric vehicles, because this was the time when the electric vehicles were coming to the market. And Edison wanted his nickel iron battery to outperform lead acid battery that was available those days, and which was already available. So by the time Edison was able to produce a powerful battery, what happened was Edison's friend, Henry Ford, he invented the gasoline, the internal combustion engine, and the vehicles were available with gasoline engines, and they were cheaper. And what happened was the market for EV, electric vehicles, gradually waned, and in favor of the gasoline engine. So people used to buy gasoline engines, and slowly the demand for electric vehicles diminished. And so it went out of our memory. And however, now it is interesting to note that, Thomas Edison's nickel iron battery, which was called Edison battery, that battery pack had a range of nearly 100 miles on a full charge. So electric vehicles were available early 1900s. That is not a new concept. And then now Edison's nickel iron battery used iron for its anode and nickel oxyhydroxide for the cathode. The electrolyte was KOH, and it was similar to nickel cadmium battery that was invented during that time. And sometimes people say this Edison copied it from the nickel cadmium. Anyway, now as the electrical vehicles became unpopular, the Edison's batteries were used in railway and in industry. And Edison, he was an accomplished chemist, an engineer, a physicist, and an inventor. And he had a very well-equipped chemistry laboratory. So basically, he was a chemist also. And there was a very large workshop, and this workshop is in New Jersey, USA. And luckily, we had the chance to visit this workshop about 2 years or 3 years back. And this is his chemistry laboratory. It is still available for the visitors to see. It's a fairly well-equipped laboratory, and there's a ball mill. This is a ball mill that is, that was used in that lab, chemistry lab. And by the side of the lab, there is a 3-story building, which was his workshop, with all the lathe machines and everything was there. And so it's a huge workshop and the laboratory where he carried out his research work. Now we will come to this interesting story of this lithium-ion battery, because lithium-ion battery is the choice of the day today. The most commonly used, most powerful battery is the lithium-ion battery, and its invention and how it was developed is a very interesting story. Now, this battery has a very excellent performance, and if you look at the parameters that are given below, and there's a comparison with other available batteries, and lithium-ion stands out as the best available battery today. Now, just to summarize, the nickel-cadmium battery, the voltage is about 1.2, and the energy density is about the watt-hours per kilogram is about 60, fairly low, and the cycle life is about 2000, these average values. And nickel metal hydride, a rechargeable battery again, 1.2 voltage, about 120 watt-hours per kilogram, and 1000 cycle life, 1000 charge-discharge cycles. Lead acid battery, 2 volts, fairly high voltage, but the energy density is low and cycle life is also fairly low. And compared with lithium ion, the voltage is 3.7 and the energy density is about 250 watt hours per kilogram and the cycle life over 3000. And so it's used everywhere in laptops, mobile phones, drones, and whatever, mobile electronic equipment, you name it, the lithium battery is there. Now, in contrast to, these other batteries, the lithium ion battery operates through a process of reversible intercalation of lithium ions between the electrodes. So, lithium ions are going from anode to cathode and cathode to anode, and the electrolyte only provides a medium for transport of lithium ions, and you can adopt the thin film technology, and therefore they have a greatly increased energy density. So these are the advantages of lithium ion battery, and so because we can adopt thin film technology, there's a large increase in the energy density. Now, if you look at the conventional batteries, where the electrolyte also mostly takes part in the electrode reaction, and there are large structural changes in the electrode. And they are called conversion type because chemical compounds are converted from one compound to a completely different compound. So there are huge structural changes, and therefore the battery physical dimensions are unstable, and that is minimum in a lithium-ion battery. And so the conventional batteries are usually, they have a low energy density also. Okay, now we will come to the story of this, the development of the lithium-ion battery, which dates back to 1972. And this story, it amply illustrates this, the story of development. This dates back to 1972, and it amply illustrates the hurdles that scientists have to face and how they can be overcome through dedication and commitment. And as we listen to this story, we can see how hard these scientists, particularly the chemists, have worked to bring to reality these lithium-ion batteries. Now, the story begins here with the scientist Stanley Whittingham in 1972. He was a British chemist, a young person at that time, and he joined this company, Excel Research, in USA. That's also in New Jersey. And before long, somehow, he produced a battery using titanium disulfide cathode, titanium disulfide, and lithium metal as the anode, and lithium containing electrolyte as the electrolyte. And that was his invention. We don't know how this idea came to his mind, but he did this. And the result was amazing, and its performance was unprecedented and much better than the best available rechargeable battery that was available at that time. So, it had a high power output and a voltage of 2.4. That's the highest up to that time. And initially, his company, Edison, showed some interest in the new battery. They manufactured small coil cells out of this technology and were used by a Swiss watch company for their solar powered wristwatch for some time. However, the company lost the interest in this battery, the titanium sulfide battery, and the production was discontinued. And that was a sad end for that battery. And so this is what Whittingham had to say. I quote from his saying, I understood the rationale for doing it. The market just wasn't going to be big enough. Our invention was just too early. That was what he said. He said that his invention was far too early. People did not understand the value of it. And so Epson, the company where he worked, simply did not understand the potential of this invention. He was it was a very bad start for Whittingham. And then, now, this I got from this article, who really invented the rechargeable lithium-ion battery. And now, this Whittingham, he had earned his PhD in chemistry from the University of Oxford. And John B. Goodenough, you might have heard of him. He died a few months ago at the age of 94. And he was also working at the University of Oxford and was the next person to join the queue in the development of this lithium-ion battery. And a paper titled Chemistry of Intercalation Compound, Metal Guests in Chalcogenide Host by Stanley Whittingham in 1978. That made Goodenough to realize that the future of battery research was with lithium. So it was Whittingham's paper that convinced Goodenough that lithium is the future of battery. And with that idea in mind, Goodenough and his research students, one of his research students, Mitsushima, that's a Japanese scientist, they commenced research work on lithium intercalation batteries. And in 1980, they introduced this lithium cobalt oxide replacing titanium disulfide for the cathode. So Whittingham's titanium disulfide was replaced by lithium cobalt oxide by Goodenough. And there was a remarkable improvement in the performance of the battery. And the voltage increased up to 4 volts. And the battery now consisted of lithium metal foil as the anode, lithium cobalt oxide as the cathode, and lithium ion electrolyte. So that was the improved version. So it was much better. The voltage is 4 volts now, and very high voltage, and very high energy density, and it was the best available battery. Then Goodenough wrote to many battery companies in the United Kingdom, USA, and Europe with the intention of finding an investor to improve the product and to commercialize it. So he was finding it hard. So even at that time, imagine now, this is in Europe and in America. And however, his efforts were in vain. No sponsors could be found. In desperation, he requested the University of Oxford, that is where he worked. He requested University of Oxford to bear the cost of the patent. What happened? The request was declined by Oxford University. Right? And it was the general perception of the day that the commercialization of research output was not the business of the university. That was the contention those days. And the University of Oxford refused paying for the patent. Which 1980? What? Yeah, it's 1980. It's a patent. So even, this late as 1980, that was the perception that they did not want to support. Imagine it is in England, not here. Here, you know, you can't even imagine the situation. So that was the situation. So look at the desperation we should have had. So that was a huge blow. And so what did Goodenough did? What did he do now? He was not discouraged. He didn't want to give up. And there was this institution, what's called the Atomic Energy Research Establishment, AERE. It's a government institution located near Oxford, right? And he visited this institute and discussed the matter with them. Although it is not their, you know, this business, it was nuclear power research. And however, they agreed to pay the cost of the patent, but on condition that Goodenough writes away his financial rights. So finally he consented, and without any financial gains, he agreed to, you know, patent it, and the company, that institution patented the invention without getting a penny for his Goodenough. He didn't get anything. And but nevertheless it was patented. Let's see what happened later. So the next person to get involved in the development of the lithium-ion battery was a young chemist by the name Akira Yoshino. He's a Japanese who was working for Asahi Chemical. It's a Japanese chemical company. He was working there, and Ashino with a few other scientists started experiment with the newly discovered polyacetylene to ascertain if it could be used as an electrode material in batteries. Now, you know, this polyacetylene was discovered in 1970, and polyacetylene is the first conducting polymer to be discovered, and Yoshino wanted to test it in batteries, whether it can be used because it was a conducting polymer. Now, in 1982, Yoshino came across a paper co-authored by Goodenough. The title was Lithium-ion Batteries Open the Door to the Future, Hidden Stories by the Inventor. So, it's an article written by Goodenough, and luckily, this was read by Yoshino, and it described this lithium cobalt oxide battery cathode, but Yoshino and his team, he tried to use this polyacetylene as the cathode, as the anode in a battery, with the lithium cobalt oxide as the cathode. So, Goodenough was using metallic lithium. The problem with metallic lithium is, you know, it is flammable and it can catch fire. It is a big hazard. But Yoshino was looking for alternatives for the anode. And now this cis polyacetylene was the first conducting polymer that was discovered in the early 1970s, and its discovery opened up a fascinating new field of research with extensive applications. Now, Hideki Shirakawa, Alan Heger, and the third person, Max Diamond. These three scientists, they were awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2000 for their contribution to the field of conductive polymers. Yeah, and so three people got this Nobel Prize, and that's for polyacetylene. So this Yoshino was using polyacetylene, and he was testing it as an anode material in the lithium-ion battery. So polyacetylene interacts with the lithium. It interacts with lithium, transferring an electron to polyacetylene producing a radical anion or a polaron on the polymer. Such interactions enable polyacetylene to function as an anode material as well as to attain a high level of electrical conductivity. So what happens is you have the polyacetylene, it is a conjugated polymer, there are double bonds here, alternating double bonds. And when you have lithium, lithium can transfer an electron here to a double bond. The double bond opens up to a single bond, and there are two electrons coming here, and the electron coming from lithium adds on, giving a negative charge, and you get a lithium ion. So that process, sometimes called doping, it increases the conductivity of this conducting polymer to a very great extent. So that was the initial work of these conducting polymers, and three people got the Nobel Prize for their invention. Now at this juncture, now I would like to take a few minutes to describe some related work that we have been doing at Peradeniya during the last few years. Now, what I am going to describe now, we were doing at Peradeniya University. Yeah. Now, I begin with natural rubber. Now, why natural rubber? What does natural rubber have to do with lithium-ion batteries? Now, we all know that natural rubber is polyisoprene. Now, I have given the structure of polyisoprene here, one molecule. You all know that. And when it's polymerized, you get the natural rubber structure. And in the natural rubber structure, in one repeat unit, you get one double bond. And the structure repeats. So that is natural rubber. And we recognize the unique property of this natural rubber molecule, the structure. Now, what happens if we brominate it? If natural rubber is brominated, you get this compound. The double bond is brominated. And then, what happens if it is subsequently dehydrobrominated? Then this bromine goes with one of these hydrogens, this bromine goes up with one of these hydrogens, and you end up with a polymer with conjugated double bonds again. And the only difference from polyacetylene is that you have a pendant methane group. That's all. Otherwise, it is a conductive polymer. And so what you have to do is take natural rubber, brominate and dehydrobrominate it. And when it came to our mind that this should be possible, I gave this as a research project for our final year students. And I used to give it repeatedly, maybe about 5-10 times, maybe. Initially, it was very difficult. The bromination of natural rubber is quite difficult. There are other side reactions that can occur. Cyclization can occur, then polymerization, and then isomerizations, and all these things can happen. So it was a very difficult task. So we tried it, the reactions with rubber latex, then we tried with isolated rubber, then we tried with deprotonated rubber, and all those possibilities were tried and over again. And then finally, we managed to do this reaction. And we got this product as a yellow powder. Should be yellow because it's a conjugated polymer. It was yellow. And then we reacted with iodine. We did some doping. And when it was doped with iodine, this was oxidized, producing a positive ion here, polaron here, and I minus. And this was highly conducting compound. It's almost black like a metal, and its conductivity was with the metallic regime. So we have converted natural rubber into a conductive polymer, and the final product obtained after the hydrobolization was nothing but polyacetylene with a pendant methyl group, and it's a conjugated polymer just like polyacetylene, and we obtained it as a yellow product, and when doped with iodine, it turned almost black with a metallic cluster, and the electrical conductivity was in the metallic regime, and for the first time, we have been able to convert a natural polymer into a conductive polymer. And now this can be tried as an anode material in lithium-ion batteries. And so, for the first time, we have been able to make a conductive polymer from natural rubber. Okay, we will come back to the work of Yoshino, the lithium battery work, and now this Yoshino and the team at Asahi, they tested various carbon-containing materials as the anode, and finally they decided to use petroleum coke. It was better than polyacetylene, and they used petroleum coke, and good enough was using metallic lithium. And lithium was a potential safety hazard due to increased fire risk. So by choosing to use petroleum coke, Yoshino and his colleagues contributed to produce a very much safer battery. So those are the three important points. The three people got the Nobel Prize for first Whittingham for using titanium disulfide. So actually he initiated the idea. So he deserves it. And then good enough for using lithium cobalt oxide for the cathode. And then the anode side was because of Yoshino. And all three people got the Nobel Prize. And today we have a very good, safer lithium-ion battery. But story does not end there. Now, Yoshino and his team, they had a crude lithium-ion battery. It was working, and you have lithium metal anode, cathode was coke, carbon, and lithium electrolyte. And because now this Asahi company that's in Japan, it was a chemical company, and they did not have any equipment or expertise to manufacture commercially accessible batteries. They did not have the know-how, or even the machinery was not available. And so it was a problem. Then what they did was, with much effort, the team was able to contact a small battery manufacturing company in Boston, USA. So what they did was, they contacted this company, and in 1986, two members of the research team at Asahi flew to Boston with the required chemicals to make a few hundred batteries. And they returned to Japan with about 200 C-type spiral wound cylindrical lithium batteries. And so they were assembled in Boston. But the company in Boston that assembled the batteries, they were unaware of the fact that they manufactured the first lot of lithium batteries, because they were not told. And they were paid, I think, they say about $30,000 those days for assembling the battery, but they did not know what they were assembling. It was not disclosed. However, Asahi Chemical was reluctant to step into the commercial production of batteries. So they brought back the batteries to Asahi company, but still their mother company did not want to mass produce it. So that was the nature. Now, there's a problem. There was a team member in the Asahi company, Kuribayashi. And what he did was he visited the camcorder section of the Sony company in Japan, Sony Corporation. And they have the know-how for battery development. And in 1987, he went to the corporation with battery. And this was the time when Sony was developing their own lithium-ion battery to be used in a new camcorder they wanted to manufacture later. So they were looking for a battery and they were trying to develop their own battery. And so this is the time when these people went with their invention and they showed it to Sony Corporation. And Sony people were well aware of the requirement. They immediately wanted to, develop it, and they had the know-how, and the food product was further developed with binders and all the other necessary things, and they perfected the battery so it could be commercialized. And what they did was then, can you remember the initial company in UK that patented it? So Sony contacted that company because the patent rights were with them, and they talked to that atomic energy establishment in UK. They have forgotten about the patent. Anyway, the Sony company bought the license from them and started manufacturing the lithium-ion battery in 1991. And finally, the lucky winner was the Sony Corporation. And Oxford University and then all the other outside, they lost billions of dollars because of their, ignorance. And so Sony Corporation, they are making billions of rupees or dollars because of this invention. Of course, now the patent may be out of date, but they made enough money because of this patent. And it took 2 decades for Wickingham's titanium sulfide battery to become the modern version of the lithium-ion battery that we use today. So we can see the difficulties that the scientists and the chemists we have to face when we are developing a product. And just imagine this happened in these developed countries. They found it difficult. But so what about Sri Lanka? Japan won because of Sony Corporation. Now, currently, lithium-ion batteries use a mixture of transition metal oxide. Now, they started with lithium cobalt oxide, but research was intensified and more compounds were developed, and now we have many more compounds. They are all transition metal oxide, nickel oxide, manganese oxide, cobalt oxide. For short, they are called NMC. And so it's a mixture of these oxides that make the cathode of modern lithium-ion batteries. And the important feature is that all these metal oxides, they have a layered structure. They have a layered structure, and in these diagrams, you can see the layered structure of this metal oxide, and these are the metal oxide layers, and in between there's enough space for the lithium ion to come and intercalate. So lithium ions are free to come in and go out. So unlike in conversion compounds, without any structural changes, major structural changes, now you have a material where the lithium ions can come in and get out. And that is the success of this lithium ion battery. And then various other compounds were discovered later, And one is lithium iron phosphate. You might have heard of lithium iron phosphate batteries, and it doesn't have a layer structure, but it's a three-dimensional structure, but there are open channels going through the structure, tunnels like channels, and there is enough space for the lithium ions to travel. And so that chemical structure again allows lithium ions to come in and go out without much structural change. So these are the two main compounds that are currently used in lithium ion batteries. This type of layered oxides, and the other is lithium iron phosphate. And the thing is, now when I saw this, I looked at a database on minerals. Okay? And amazingly, I found that not this one, but lithium and phosphate and all the intermediate compounds, because there are intermediate oxidation states here, ferrous and ferric, then lithium intercalates, various lithium mole fractions, but those are present as naturally occurring minerals. So if somebody had looked at the minerals, one could, select the candidates that may work in lithium-ion batteries. So somebody doing research, I am telling that you look at the, naturally occurring minerals, and definitely you can make them in the laboratory, and you can find some minerals containing lithium, which are naturally occurring. Most probably, they might work in lithium-ion battery as cathode material. Now, just to mention how it works, now this lithium final battery, you have now they use graphite for the carbon, and graphite has a layered structure, and lithium can intercalate without much change in the chemical potential. So they are as good as lithium metal. But the fire hazard is not there, because now lithium is inside the structure of lithium. There is no free lithium metal there. And that is used as the anode, and the cathode is the metal oxide. And what happens is, during discharging, the lithium ionizes, and the lithium ions moves that way, and the electron moves, providing current in the external circuit, and this lithium comes here, and the tungsten metal oxide is reduced, and to balance the charge, lithium ion, the ions, they get into the structure, to the interlayer space. So that's how it works, and when you use it, lithium ions come that way and electrons come that way. When you charge it, the reverse reaction occurs. Lithium ions go back and the electrons go back that way, and that is charging. And so that's the ideal structure there for the lithium ions to come and go. And so these are the two reactions occurring. Lithium becomes lithium plus and electron. So lithium ions go that way, the electrons go in the external circuit. And if you start with cobalt oxide, cobalt 4 oxidation state, what will happen is these lithium ions and electrons will come. Electrons will come to the outside circuit, lithium ions to the electrolyte, and they interact with the cobalt oxide cathode. Cobalt 4 will be reduced to cobalt 3, and lithium will compensate for the charge reduction, and the composition of the cobalt cathode will gradually change. So this is cobalt 4 will gradually become cobalt 3. And so these are non-stoichiometric compound, and when it is fully discharged, cobalt will be all reduced to cobalt 3 from 4 to 3. So finally it ends up with lithium cobalt oxide with oxidation state 3, starting with cobalt state, oxidation state 4 here. So that's what is happening, and there's an interesting reaction that is occurring, and that's why we have got the Nobel Prize. And now lithium-ion technology is now well developed, and there has been a tenfold reduction in lithium prices during the last 10 to 12 years. Now, that's another problem where actually the lithium-ion prices have come down. Despite lithium being a rare element, we class it as a scarce element. But nevertheless, the prices have come down by about tenfold during the last 10 years. And the cost of lithium-ion battery practice now about it's below $150 per kilowatt hour, and therefore now they are used in megawatt scale grid balancing and for energy storage applications. So it's not now restricted to small electronic equipment, but it has gone up to grid balancing state because they are so cheap and the energy density is very high. And now this is the original patent of good enough, and his touch curve going from this voltage here from about 2 volts to about 5 volts there, which is about 4.2 volts. And now this axis is the X lithium-ion mole fraction in the cobalt oxide, this axis. Now, when it is fully charged, it is here, that is X0, that is cobalt oxide, cobalt oxidation state 4, and so we are here, but it's fully discharged. All cobalt is going to cobalt 3 state, and the voltage comes down to somewhere here. And the useful, the region for the variation of the compression is from X equals 0 to X equals 1. But unfortunately, this entire region can't be used. We can use only from about 0 to 0.5. This is 0, this is 0.5, this is 1. That's the mole fraction of lithium in the cathode, because this is about 0.5 mole fraction here. And when it is 0.5, the voltage is 4.2. Now, if you charge the battery above 4.2, there will be changes in the crystal structure of the lithium oxide cathode, and the structure breaks down, and there is oxygen evolution, and so on. The cycle life comes down, and the battery will be, damaged. So it's not recommended to charge lithium-ion batteries above 4.2. And so therefore the theoretical energy capacity is reduced to half, because we can't use this whole range. It is reduced to about half the theoretical value, but still it is high enough. It is about 250 watt hours per kilogram, not kilo, watt hours per kilogram. About 250. So we will briefly look at the other electrochemical, energy storage devices. I hope, can I go on? No, yeah. Very quickly, we will look at what are called redox flow batteries, and the other is supercapacitors. I am not going to touch supercapacitors. I'll tell something about redox flow batteries, because we are doing some work at Peradeniya. And now these are medium to large scale stationary storage system designed to store more energy than conventional batteries. They are rechargeable batteries, and the technology was first developed during the early 19th century. And working flow batteries have been demonstrated in the early 70s. Now, a flow battery consists of an electrode stack containing the electrochemical cells assembled in series, through which the two electrolytes are the anolyte and the catholyte. They are pumped from two separate tanks. So the electrolyte volume is not restricted to what is in the battery stack. So there are chemicals stored in separate tanks outside the battery stack where you have the electrode. And thereby you can increase the capacity of the battery. And now mainly there are two types of batteries, the vanadium flow battery and the zinc bromine flow battery. And the vanadium flow battery, it uses 4 oxidation states of vanadium, vanadium 2, 3, 4 and 5. So on one side you have vanadium 2 and 3, on the other side you have 4 and 5. And then so all the active materials are in solution, and the voltage is about 1.26, and these are the electrode reactions, and this is vanadium 5 plus, it becomes 4 plus during discharge. This is vanadium 2 plus, it becomes 3 plus during discharge. So during discharge, forward reactions occur, and during charge, the reverse reactions occur. And so the battery stack is something like this. You have a series of batteries here. These are the end electrodes, and in between you have what are called bipolar electrodes. That is a large number of cells in series, and there's one electrode in this tank and the other electrode in this tank, and this electrolyte is pumped through a pump using a pump, and the electrolyte is pumped into the cells of the electrolyte. So each battery or each cell in the battery stack gets the supply from this tank, and this is the other electrolyte. There's another pump, and that will be pumped to the other side of the cell. So the two electrolytes are pumped from the external cell, and the two electrolytes are separated using there's a membrane here in the middle. So this one electrolyte, this is the other electrolyte. In the center you have the separator. So as the batteries being charged, more and more fresh electrolytes are being pumped, and therefore the capacity of the battery can be increased, and it depends on the volume of the electrolyte in the tank and not on the size of the electrode stack. So such batteries are there, and the largest of these batteries, vanadium flow battery, is now in operation in China, and it has a capacity of 100 megawatts or 400 megawatt hours. So it can operate for 4 hours at a power of 400 megawatts. So very large batteries, stationary power supplies, and that technology is coming up. But they are huge batteries, but they can store a huge amount of power also. And before I finish, I will just very briefly mention what we have been doing at Maheswaran. We were working on zinc bromine battery. It is slightly different. We are using zinc and bromine as the electrode reactions, and the electrode reactions are given there. Zinc is becoming, the reactions as given are the reactions during charging. Zinc ions from solution become zinc metal and they deposit on the electrode, and bromide converted to bromine, and bromine stays in the solution. And during discharge, zinc becomes zinc ion and Br2 becomes bromine. And so the electrolyte is zinc bromide. So we have the zinc bromide electrolyte, and actually on one side, because bromine is formed, because bromine is volatile, we add a complexing agent to hold the bromine in solution without escaping to the outside. So as the battery is charged, bromine is produced and zinc is deposited on the electrode. And when you are using the battery, they react back forming zinc bromide. And once charged, you can keep the battery for any length of time because the reactive speed is 1, zinc is in the stack, the other active species, that is the bromine, it is in the electrolyte. So the advantage is after charging the battery, you can leave it in the charged state for any length of time and you can use it even after several months. And so there is no capacity fading with time. And as opposed to lithium-ion batteries, because lithium-ion batteries, however good they are, with time there is what's called capacity fading. The capacity comes down with time. You know, if you have the mobile phone, when it is new, it will take a longer time to charge and the charge will be there for several days. But as it gets older, you have to charge it every day. So same thing happens to your car, if it's an electric car. So that capacity fading is not there in this zinc bromine or any flow battery. And the other advantage is 100% discharge is allowed. Nothing happens to the battery. Full capacity can be utilized, and that's a big advantage. And so I will just show you some photographs and then stop there. And so this is the battery stack. We are keeping the stack horizontal and the two solutions are below, and we are pumping the solution upwards to the stack using two pumps. And then I'm not going into the details. And this is one of the designs that we have developed. And this is a flow frame, and this frame is plastic, and we have this flow channel. The electrolyte, one electrolyte enters through this hole, and when the stack is made, this hole will produce the channel through which the electrolyte flows. So what we do is we have this electrode frame, and the graphite electrode is attached to this space here, and one here, two electrodes are attached, and the electrolyte coming through hole will flow through this flow channel, and then it is distributed, and it will flow over the electrode surface, and it goes that way, then flows over this electrode, and then finally gets out through this hole. So electrode comes here, it goes over the entire electrode surface and goes out. And the other electrode comes from this hole, and it passes through the flow channel from the other side of this frame. The reverse side also has similar flow channel. So that electrode will enter from here, goes on the other side of this plate, and at the end of the day, they will come out from here. So that way, the two electrolytes will be flowing on the two sides of the electrodes, and that is what's happening. And so this is we are doing flow simulation studies using software, and we optimize the flow path, the length, their dimensions, depth, and so on, and the shapes, so that we get the best flow so that it covers the entire electrode surface completely. So that we do, and depending upon the results, we design the flow frames and manufacture them. And then this is one of the electrodes that we prepare using graphite, our local graphite, and certain plastic material. And then this is one frame where we have mounted just one electrode in the center, and you can barely see the flow paths here. Flow path. The liquid enters from here, goes through this, and then it is distributed over the entire width of the electrode, and the electrolyte passes through that, and then collected on this side, and then finally goes out from here. And similarly, the other electrolyte comes in from here, it goes on the other side, and then goes over the other side of the electrode and comes out from here. And that way, the entire stack is supplied with the two electrolytes. And then also, the membrane is a very important thing, and currently we use polyethylene commercial separators. And in this diagram, these are two SCM images, and the first one is a commercially available membrane that we use. We have to buy it made of polyethylene, but we are trying to make our own membranes, and we are doing some research on that work. And this is one of the membranes that we have made at Peradeniya, and you can see that it has a nice distribution of holes. Only thing is, right now the hole diameter is a little bit more. It's about 10 micron, whereas here this is about 10 micron. But there are longer tunnels-like holes in the commercial one. But in the membrane that we are developing, it's much more, uniform. Only thing we have to, fine-tune the size of these pores. And so, yeah, in the process of making our own membrane. And this is to wind up. This is one of the steps that we have made, and need to stack this is a smaller one, Sally. And then these are the two electrolyte tanks with pumps, and these are the tubes taking the electrolyte to the stack. The stack is at the top. You can't see it here. And then finally, this one, the entire battery. This is the stack. You have the two electrolytes here, and the pump. And these are the tubings that take the electrolyte into the stack, and it is circulated. And so that's the final design of the battery. And no, because the technology is there, but we are going to apply for certain sectors that we have developed in our laboratory. For example, this membrane and also the electrode compression and so on. But the battery technology as a whole is known, so you can't get patents for that. And so to wind up, initially we have assembled and tested the number of cells with electrode area 10 by 10. We started with small cells battery, then a 12-volt battery with 10 electrodes. We have been assembled and tested for over 1,100 cycles. We have tested for 1,100 cycles, and then we are now making 20 by 20 larger electrodes, and we are mounting 2 of them on one single frame. And so right now we are in the process of assembling a battery with 1 kilowatt, 4 kilowatt hour battery is under construction now. And then the future prospect, So flow batteries are attractive as stationary energy storage devices. However, their capital cost is much higher than lithium. And that's a problem, but they have a long life. Some batteries can be used for about 15-20 years, the flow batteries. And so the levelized cost of production is over the years will be low. And then, so it's a good alternative for storing large amounts of energy in the future. And so there's a great amount of research directed in this direction. But this is something about sodium-ion batteries. I'm not going to describe it now because of the time constriction. It's just like lithium, but some other compounds are being used, like these Prussian blue type of compound. And then, without taking too much of your time, finally, I believe that the future is not too far when people can enjoy a grid-independent solar-powered power supply enabled by a affordable domestic energy storage system. So there will be a time when we all can enjoy the luxury of a individual power source which can be charged using solar panels during the day and use it independently during the night. So that's our final goal, to make a domestic battery locally produced to store energy. And then my last slide, because it's not proper if I don't show the people behind this work. Prof. Rajapati is there because he is the coordinator between the university and the industry. He has good relations with industry, and he is coordinating this one. I am looking after the research aspect of it. And this is some of our team members. And now, no, yeah, we have a private company this funding it. This is Nuan Gunasena. This is Achinta Sumitrarati. This is Dr. Pugudu Kumar Singh as a postdoc. And this is Supon Gunasena. And this is Shankar. And these are the people. And there's one engineer also. This is Divya Darshan. His photograph is not there. He's an engineer working for the project Divya Darshan. And so those are the people actually doing the work. So thank you very much, and thank you for your patience. Okay. Yes. Maybe for the last 4 to 5 years.
We can put this in the schools, I think. So nice.
On behalf of our university, we are thanking to our guest speaker, Professor H.M. Mandara, for delivering a good, valuable lecture on energy storage devices and the challenging role of the chemist. Thank you, sir. Now the time for giving thanks. I kindly request our Dean, Faculty of Science, Professor B. Rajan, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Our respected speaker, and also my teacher, Professor H.M. Bandara, and our Vice Chancellor, Professor Sri Sattaraja, and former Vice Chancellors, and the former computing authority, and then deans and heads of the department, and former colleagues of Professor Maheswaran, and students, and the family members of the Professor Maheswaran. So I said that because respected teacher, because I had a fortunate to study a few topics in polymer and also instrument divisions during my master degree program under Professor H.M.V. Bandara. And we are really fortunate that actually we found a person, who was the friend of Professor Maheswaran, and also, he briefly worked with him. So when we do this type of the research work on this energy and the energy storage. So in Sri Lanka, there are several people actually working on it. In fact, actually, our faculty actually make a lead on this, the solar cells and also the battery research. So we have in our colleagues actually having working on this lithium, sodium batteries also, and I am really fortunate that actually because he was actually introduced me about this conducting polymer, this conjugated polymers during the master degree. And also the Professor Gamini Rajapaksa that actually taught me, which actually, attracted me to do this research work on this field. So I am really thankful for your, dedication to come all the way from Kandy and then make this wonderful talk to the audience, because you actually covered the story of this high density battery, and also within a 1 hour it's not an easy task, and then we actually covered everything, and also all the technical details to actually deliver in a simple manner, and then most of us actually understood. And it's some of the things actually maybe it is very useful even for the school kids as well. And I think several other things actually we don't know about him. So from my colleagues at the National Institute of Fundamental Studies told me that he is not only a senior professor in chemistry, but also he is expert in electronics. And also Professor Gamli Desak, I just sent me a message that I won't actually read that because you will know what he has been done. So Professor Bandara's hobby is electronics, and also he was instrumental in repairing all the broken high-tech equipment such as 300 megahertz, NMR, XRD, and many other instruments. He initiated the computer science department and was inaugurated founder, HOD, until computer science department, PhDs, retired to University of Pennsylvania. He learned computer science by self-learning, and he has also developed, manufactured wet and also solid-state UV visible spectrometer. And he also started instrumentation lecture course for chemistry honor students, and his research spans wide areas including batteries and also solar cells. He was the first to develop electronic conducting polyacetylene as a final year project. This is very important because he actually showed about this Nobel Prize winning discovery that we call conducting polymer, that's actually discovered by the Japanese, that is in 2000. But here he say that, Professor Gamini Rajapaksa say that, because he was the first to develop electronically conducting polyacetylene as a final year project given to his student in 1970s. They converted natural rubber into the polyacetylene. So had they published it in then they would have received the Nobel Prize. So this is more than enough to tell about our eminent honorable speaker. I would like to propose thanks to the the departments. They actually found a very suitable and also and made all the arrangement to bring him here. And we thank the academic branch for doing all the logistics. And also I thank you all for coming here and then listen to this. I am sure because this material will be made available in the faculty website, even the recorded video and also the book, and that will be benefit to the future of our students. Thank you very much to you all. Thank you.